All right, good morning. Sorry about the delay there. 10:06, Monday, January 12th. Just sometimes like I'm trying to put these messages up, and then when I get back to my laptop 5 minutes before jump off time, nothing's working. So it's a little frustrating because without the chat, without you guys, what do we really have? What do we really have right now? It's not like we have any games, so we're all just chatting, going over some things. So it makes sense that without the chat we can't work. But I hope everybody's good. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Obviously, Bregman is going to be the main topic today. We'll get into that in a moment. I didn't make a coffee yet today, so we're all behind schedule. Thinking about pausing to make a quick coffee real quick. Me and Daisy Bean. Say hi. Say hi to the people. And then we can get started on my thoughts on Bregman, what this means for the Cubs, Red Sox, how everybody's going to pivot, Bregman himself, the whole thing. So I'm just going to put it on the loading screen for a minute while I make a quick cup because I can't get my brain going today without my coffee. So I'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. We have a single espresso ready to go. And I realized that I didn't turn the mic off, but that's okay. Who cares? I don't care. All right, let's get into it. Main screen today. Oh, that's annoying. We gotta get the main screen to pop up here, which it will in a second. There it is. Okay. Sorry about all that. We've been not locked in. So we're gonna go ahead and get locked in right now. First place we're gonna go is to the Cubs, because the Cubs signed Alex Bregman. As we know, this was a little bit of a surprise. They were in his market last year, ended up not signing him. Obviously we didn't know. Ooh, what is this? YouTube is not. What does this say? YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I don't know. I think we'll be all right. I've never seen that error message before. Oh, you want to see the puppy again real quick before we get started? Yeah, she's about to sleep. But probably on my lap for a bit. But here she is. Here she is, Daisy, bringing a whole new world to our household. Before her, I don't know if we had as much love, but we definitely had, it was a little simpler, maybe a simpler time. Yeah, and Dugout is working again. So we're all good. Dugout's back. I got that refigured out. So if we have to watch games, we'll be ready to go. All right, here we go. Let's get it popping today. So this is the new lineup. I mean, this is a whole brave new world. Matt Shaw out of the starting lineup for now. Alex Bregman in at third base. Now, before I even talk at all about the offensive part of this and how I think he fits with the Cubs, for one thing, the defense just gets even better. Literally, the infield defense of Bregman, Dansby, who is intriguing because those guys went 1-2 in the same draft. Nico, assuming they keep him, is incredible up the middle. Not to mention, we already know about the outfield defense. You got Gold Glovers everywhere. You got PCA. You got Happer. And then Seiya was a lot better last year. So defensively, this team should be incredible. Bregman does nothing but strengthen that. I think offensively is where it's a little bit of a more interesting fit. They have him penciled in the 2-hole here, which I do think makes a lot of sense. That had been Nico's spot. And this is probably fluid because they have a lot of very capable hitters. Michael Bush, Alex Bregman now, Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, PCA, Carson Kelly, Dansby, Ballesteros, and Horner. What's crazy is in a different world, the bottom 3 could be hitting at the top. Ballesteros could become an absolute masher. Nico's the top of the order type of hitter, and Dansby has been at times in his career too. So this is a lengthy, deep lineup on a team that already had a really good offense last year. So, I mean, I think, obviously Bregman's a really good offensive player. We'll go get into his profile now. He's I think last year he was like a 125 OPS plus. These were what the actual numbers were last year: 273, 360, 462 for an 822 OPS. And that's with kind of stinking down the stretch. After he came back of his injury, he definitely wasn't the same player. He was hovering around a 900 OPS earlier in the year. So offensively, you're getting an interesting performer. It's funny because of the ballparks he's played in, his power has played up. He's a dead pull hitter, he's a power hitter, and he's played in Houston, Crawford Boxes, and Fenway Park, Green Monster. So I don't know how the power is going to translate, but who Alex really is the bottom half of these metrics. 97th percentile in squared up, 95th percentile in chase. He does not chase. You have to strike out Bregman for the most part. Looking, he doesn't whiff. 15% whiff. He doesn't really strike out. 14% strikeout, and he still gets a good amount of walks. So it's a strike zone discipline game, mainly with a very level line drive contact swing, where if he wants to have any power, he's got to get the head out and hook it down the line. I expect him to be more of a contact hitter this go around with the Cubs. You look at the layout of their ballpark, and I don't think at home he's going to be hitting a lot of home runs in general. Left center is pretty shallow, but this park's played as a pitcher park for the last few years, and most of his power, as we can see, is right down the line. Now, he will hit some, but I'm just saying that I don't think the power part of the equation is why he gets signed to the Cubs. I think it's a combination of, veteran leadership, know-how, contact ability, basically believing in the player to be so baseball obsessed, which he is, that he's not going to allow himself to turn into a pumpkin. I think that's why you make these deals. I don't think their ballpark is ideal. I do think he made more sense offensively in Boston or in Houston, and that's why I think Boston really had a lot less concerns and why they could definitely probably have paid this contract as well. Ultimately, they get outbid, though, which I think is disappointing for Red Sox fans and exciting for Cubs fans. And I think at least in the short term, this is a great move for the Cubs. I don't know how it plays out beyond a year or two from now, and I don't know what the overall numbers will look like offensively. But if you just look at the overall impact that he'll have, not only on the field, but also in the clubhouse, I do think that this will benefit them in what they're trying to do right now, which is dethrone the Brewers in the division, be one of the best teams in the regular season, and take their shot in the postseason. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more about all this after I get in the chat here a little bit. Yes, puppies are a full-time job. We are learning that. We are learning that every year. Okay. The power probably doesn't translate well. Wrigley is deeper in the corners than right, left, center. Really weird outfield cutouts. This is one of the things that I was saying, and I was talking with Mitch yesterday. Obviously, he's got Cubs ties. You go look at the park factors, and we pull up good old Wrigley Field. So Wrigley Field last year played as the 27th best ballpark to hit in. So major pitcher's park vibes here. And when you click on Wrigley, you'll get to see a little bit when you zoom in on this park here, how the outfield wall juts out in the corners. As you guys can see, it actually gets deeper down the line than in a typical place. The wind is a huge factor at Wrigley. And I've been there in games where everything seems to be a home run or nothing can be a home run. So it's intriguing how it kind of can change on a dime based on the wind, how the ballpark will play in terms of fly balls and home run possibilities. But also, you know, um, it's just been an interesting place over the past few years, and it's played much more pitchers. So I just wanted to point that out when we're thinking about Bregman. Last year, or this is a rolling last 3 years, the only thing that it's inflating is triples, and I'm not really sure why. I guess that's probably a few balls caught in the ivy. But other than that, it's been a depressor of everything, and that's with the offense they had last year. So yeah, I think he's going to have to offensively his on base percentage skills. Hold on, let me get back to Breggy. His on base percentage skills and his clutch hitting skills and his ability to use the whole field for singles is what's really going to make a difference on this team. They have enough power. Certainly have power. But anyway, I just think it's a curious fit. I was going to say offensively, like I don't think you're going to see the same power numbers for Breggy. Like he's been a 25, 26 home run guy in typical full years. I don't think you're going to see that in Wrigley. So to me, that's a little bit of an issue with this fit. Did I order Arch food? No, because it wasn't open. But let me see if it's open now. Gotta tell my wife no about something. Sorry about that. Anyway, I mean, I love Alex as a player. I got to meet him last year. We were in camp together with the Red Sox. You know, we're immediately drawn to each other. I think just because of the baseball obsessiveness, the whole thing. He understands the game on a high level, extremely high level. It's the type of guy that calls pitches from third base at times. Interacts with everybody on the team, always trying to. He just out baseballs you. You can't be more baseball-y, if that's a word or an adjective, than Alex Bregman. So that's the thing that I love about him, and I do think 31's not necessarily old. This is a 5-year deal. I do think 31, 32, 33, 34, those years, I'd be shocked if he declined at some crazy plummeting rate because I don't see his work ethic allowing him to do so. But I think his overall profile is one that, it's a little bit delicate. He can't afford to lose any more bat speed. He can't afford to lose any more strength or even foot speed. He doesn't have much of it now, but he's going to become a very, very skill-based only player if he does decline in those areas. Now, I'm pretty confident that he can hold it off for a few years, but obviously I would say the league was a little less confident. Two teams basically giving the 5-year offers, which is what it required to sign him, and I think when you do that from a team perspective, you're kind of giving in on those last two. So I think everybody kind of agrees. Very good chance he could decline here. But at the same time, he's got the winning pedigree. He's seen it all. He's been through a lot of different stuff. And I do think that the reports coming out of Boston um, with how he helped within the clubhouse, that stuff with him in this case, or with him and Schwarber, those two guys, that really helped their argument, I think, to get the big bucks this offseason. Also, huge winner in this and all of this is Boris. Boris's strategy works again. Another 1-year opt-out situation. Gets $40 million, opts out. Now he has no qualifying offer, goes and get his big deal. So, we've seen that with Pete Alonso this offseason. We've seen it with Bregman now. We saw it with Snell last year. So, people are quick to jump on the Boris, doesn't know what he's doing train when there's no market for a player. But he seems to always get to the finish line some way. We saw it with Matt Chapman as well. So, anyway, that's my initial thoughts on winners and losers, I guess, of this. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the Red Sox and more of the Cubs, and we'll get into every single angle of this. He always seemed like a guy that got his rings and wanted to load up his stats to make it to the Hall of Fame. Wrigley will not help that. I don't 100% agree. I think well, where is Bregman right now in the quest for the Hall of Fame? Right? Okay, so you're going to talk about he wants to be a Hall of Famer. I think that's probably true. So 43.1 WAR. He's got to get at least over 60 WAR to even have any chance, considering his counting stats. He's got 209 home runs, so he's not going to be anywhere close on there. Basically, he's a third baseman, so that's a little bit unfortunate for him because he'll get judged versus other third basemen who have better offensive numbers. He's never going to be able to touch some of the third basemen we've seen recently, Chipper Jones, Adrian Beltre, but he could maybe get there. This is kind of like where David Wright had to like stop playing right around this amount of WAR or similar, right? And I don't think he's going to get in, even though I think David was probably a little bit of a better player. Yeah, 49.1 WAR. Granted, it was more age on him, but you have to remember, it's right around this time because that's when his back let go. So David was averaging more WAR per year at this point than Bregman was. So there's plenty of time for him to finish this out. I do think playing for a legacy franchise like the Cubs kind of helps you with the voting in a way. But I mean, he's got a long way to go. He's going to have to put together a pretty impressive 30s that most people are doubting he'll be able to do if he wants to get into the Hall of Fame conversation. Yeah, Bregman has some work to do to Hall of Famer. Very short right now, but has plenty of time. So that's the thing. It's just like you look at his game, 5'11", 190, short guy. That kind of plays into everything that you see within him. He's a maximum skill focused guy, so he's mastered what he can do given his size and dimensions. So what do I mean by that? Number one, when you face a short guy, it's very hard to throw them strikes. Their strike zone feels smaller, and with the ABS, it will actually be smaller. Number two, he doesn't chase. And I think that's something that he's worked on from a very young age when he was probably a younger player and he didn't have power in his game. Strike zone judgment, getting on base became his way to bring value to his teams. And I'm talking going back to travel ball, even in college. This isn't a big home run guy. Gap to gap, line drive hitter. Eventually, he figured out how to pull the ball in the air. And that's when you saw the huge seasons he had in Houston at the beginning. But again, I think that's a little bit of a fugazi. He's much more of a line drive hitter. He's a short guy. As I mentioned, that makes him a little bit better at covering the top of the zone than some of the tall guys. So he has less weaknesses at the plate, but he's also the type of guy that can't take you out of the ballpark unless he's dead pull. So as a pitcher, you pitch him away when a power hit can hurt you, and you let him take his single if you have to, and you just pay attention to him looking to get into hook mode. And when it's a big spot, you have to understand that you're probably not going to get him to chase too often. You're going to have to catch him looking, and you have to stick and move a little bit when facing him. So look, very good player, outstanding player, and I'm happy for him. He's getting paid what he probably deserves, but ultimately, I think it's a very interesting contract from a team that I'm frankly a little surprised. If they had one big bullet to shoot, I'm not sure that this would have been the one I would have thought was the best fit out on the market, but nevertheless, they go out there and shoot it, and now we have to just react to it. Let's see here. I don't see an issue being motivated. No, I mean, he'll definitely be motivated. I mean, no doubt, this is not the type of guy that you pay money and then he just mails it in. That will never happen. That will never happen. As a Dodgers fan, completely unbiased, I think Bregman will be eligible for the Hall of Pretty Good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, he might get over 60 WAR and make it awfully interesting. We'll have to see. The expectations are high, but this is a tenuous moment, I think, because we also watched the way Bregman played down the stretch last year, and he wasn't playing as well. So I don't know. Overall, I think he lifts up the organization. I think that's why a lot of teams chase him. But at the same time, I don't know. It's not a lot of electricity going into this moment either. You're really buying into the person and that he's going to continue to find a way to develop and continue to be effective, through this next phase of his career. Let me get back into the Cubs here for a little bit because they've done some things recently and they've built a much more complete team. I think probably the most complete team in the NL Central, at least for the regular season. So look, they had the best offense in that division last year. And nothing's changed except they've added Bregman. They got rid of Tucker, but they added Bregman. Obviously, that's a big change. And they are a little right-handed. But this is a dynamic 1 through 9 order with some upside. Swanson hasn't hit as well as we know he's capable of, so he could do better. I think Hap's an interesting fulcrum within this lineup. A lot of swing and miss in his game, and they have him right there in the 3-hole, right in the middle of everything. I think that could be an evolving situation, and really all these pieces could move around, but they have the pieces where at least 6, 7 of these guys are going to have pretty decent years, and they're going to pump out a good offense. Now, pitching wise, they've added a ton of depth. They're going to have Steele coming back mid-season. We just talked about this because of the Edward Cabrera trade. So Boyd, Cabrera, Horton, Imanaga, and Taillon. That's 5 absolute major league starters, all with different stuff, bringing different things to the table. So I do like the rotation, especially for the regular season, and especially with Steele coming back. They should have more than enough depth to have a good pitcher on the mound at all times when every game begins. And then in the bullpen, this is one area that I'd like to see them, if they have any more money in them, if they have any more spend in them, I'd like to see them make an impact out here in the bullpen. Palencia, very likely to not pitch the entire season, but that's their electric guy. Hunter Harvey would be the other electric guy, also with major injury concerns over the years. So they have 2 hard-throwing guys who probably be in there and probably won't be in there. At times, just because that's been the nature of their career so far, is to, kind of play a half season or so. Then you got the opposite of that, the antithesis of that, which is Mr. Phil Maton. He throws slow, he spins the ball a lot, he's very cerebral, he's not scaring anybody, but year in, year out, he throws 60 to 70 appearances and puts up good numbers. So they kind of mix a little bit of risk with a little bit of certainty there. Phil Barr has been good for them. Lefty, he is 39 years old, so who knows when the other shoe drops. And again, I like Milner as a matchup. I like Webb as a solid, middle reliever type. Assad is another possible starting guy, swing guy, but there's not a lot of super exciting stuff in this bullpen. So if they had one more big bullet to fire, I'd like to see it out here. And then this team, to me, would be a slam dunk favorite in the Central. And I know that that's disrespecting the Brewers and the Reds and the Pirates quite a bit, but I don't care. I definitely think that the Cubs have the most complete team, especially offensively. How can you argue with this lineup? I'll say it again. Bush, Bregman, Happ, Suzuki, PCA, Kelly, Swanson, Ballesteros, Horner. That is very, 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 very good. And I love their defense, especially given that they do have a lot of pitching to contact going on here with Boyd, Horton, Taillon, Imanaga. You're going to need that defense, and they should have the best defense in the sport. So that's very exciting. All right, back to the chat here. Indications are that he chose the Cubs because they offered him a full no-trade clause, but the Red Sox would not do that. Do you think that's a worthwhile hill for the Red Sox to die on? Not really, no. I think that he was more valuable to the Red Sox even than to the Cubs. And I know that the Red Sox are very principled. They're going off of their models. But I understand the plight of the Red Sox fan right now. You had Rafi Devers 12 months ago. You go ahead and sign Bregman. They're together for a little bit. There's unrest. That situation wasn't handled well. You end up trading him to San Fran. You get out under the money. The storyline that came along with getting out from under the money was that money was going to be reinvested into the team in a smarter, more exciting fashion. And now they don't have Bregman either. So both of those guys are gone, and now they're left pivoting probably to a place that's going to get even more uncomfortable. If they want to be in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes, I think he's going to command more money than Bregman, and he's got just as many concerns. Actually, more concerns, probably defensively. So that's going to be an interesting place for them to pivot. I think Ketel Marte might have been the way all along for this team. It's a cost-controlled superstar. I personally would have been willing to give up a Peyton Tolley. I don't know what the actual trade demands were, but from the Red Sox side, yeah, I would have given him the no trade. I would have been okay with the back half of this deal not being as good. $15 million and a no trade clause is what separated you. It would have been hard for me to accept that. This wasn't $100 million difference, and I do think the impact that he had on the team will be missed. So from the Red Sox side of things, I get why they would be disappointed, especially that fan base. Carson Kelly, this was a big deal with the Cubs too. Carson Kelly was a crazy man this year. Yeah, so Spectre used that in his fantasy league, but Carson Kelly went off last year offensively, and that was a big deal for the Cubs because it came out of nowhere, and it added another layer to their offense. He went to a little bit of an Alan Craig swing, basically copied Alan Craig's whole setup, and it equated to a 249, 333, 428, 761 OPS with 17 home runs out of the catcher's position. So that's pretty nice. And we'll see if they can run that back again. But yeah, that's just another guy that right now I'm penciling in as being pretty good, who had no evidence of being good before last year. But yeah, if you look at the Cubbies, you know, some of these guys for sure, you expect a little more out of, or you're worried that they could drop off a little bit. So there's a little bit of concern here. But I think Bregman lifts the entire offensive ceiling up in general just because of the way he communicates and the way he studies. That bleeds into everybody else. All right, back to the Red Sox now. Let me go look at the Red Sox situation, because now that they don't have Bregman coming back, and I'll be honest, I kind of penciled in Bregman just automatically going back to the Red Sox, just like I kind of penciled in Bellinger automatically going back to the Yankees. And honestly, I don't think any of that's going to happen. Or it might not happen. And it just goes to show you that when people do get to free agency, there's no such thing as an easy negotiation. I don't think people had the Cubs. I mean, people had heard the Diamondbacks in the mix for Bregman for a bit here, and they thought maybe that was the threat. He lives in Arizona. There's some draw to staying in Arizona year round. But you let a guy go to free agency and you let him test the market, and you never know what could happen. You might end up disappointed. Is this new? This just happened? Byron Buxton joining Team USA? I hope that's true. That'd be great. All-time botch job to trade Devers only to get 1 year of Bregman. See, that's kind of the way I look at it. Now, I know they're off of a lot of money, but they have a surplus in the outfield, as you can see here with the Red Sox. Roman Anthony is going to be playing left field for Boston, hopefully forever, but at least for the next 6 years. Cedon is unbelievable in center. You can't move him. And Willie Abreu been really, really good in right. Not to mention you still have Yoshida and Duran. So the outfield is totally crowded. There's no way they're going for Tucker. Bellinger's not really a fit here. So Bichette. It's Bichette, or it's rekindling trades for Starling Marte, or getting creative, or they're not going to really be able to improve from this. Now, you could take a deep breath and say, you know what? Do we actually have to improve this offense from where it's at right now? Like, is this as bad as everybody thinks? I don't think it's that bad. Roman Anthony could be a superstar as soon as this year. Story played great in the second half. Duran, he's got to do better than last year. Contreras, I think, was a sneaky, really good pickup. Abreu's been good. Narvaez hit well for a catcher. Meyer, this is the type of guy that we don't really know what his offensive ceiling is, but he's a good all-around player. And honestly, I like the fact that he's going to get to play every day. I think that's very important for him and the Red Sox. Romy Gonzalez, this is the first spot where you say, okay, this might be too big of a bite for this player to chew. Romy's been a really good situational player, mauls lefties, plays utility, really good off the bench. But to put him into a starting role, I think you're going to see a huge difference there. And that's where, signing a Bo Bichette would make a big difference, or having actually brought Bregman back would have made a big difference, is kind of in that Romy spot. Let Romy be a bench player and a platoon player. But overall, this offense is still going to score runs. It's just that the AL East ceiling has raised so much higher. The Orioles have gotten better. The Blue Jays are turning into maybe what could be a juggernaut. And we still think the Yankees are going to do some things. So, it's not that this isn't a quality offense. This isn't a quality baseball team. It's just that, the bar is higher. The bar has gotten a lot higher. All right, here we go. And what moves do I see for Boston to make here for their lineup? So again, I think the big spot you have to move with is one infielder. Now, there's not a ton left on the market. Let's go look at the free agent tracker here. Just among batters. So Suarez, well, for one thing, he would hit a lot of home runs in Fenway, hitting pull side balls to left. But I don't think he's necessarily a fit. I think you do want Marcelo to play every day over there. So we'll continue to look at the other infielders. Miguel Andujar, Ramon Urias, Luis Arraez, Adam Frazier, Yohan Moncada, IKF. None of these are very exciting. So I do think it's kind of Bo Bichette or go internal, and then maybe you try to improve the team in a different way. Oftentimes analysts will say it doesn't matter whether I'm taking runs off the board or whether I'm adding runs to the board. So if I can improve my team in the run prevention That just does me just as good as improving the team by the same margin in the run production. I don't know that I overall agree. I think you need to be pretty well rounded in all areas. But yeah, you look at the market, and for what they need, it's kind of slim pickings. Suarez would be an interesting one. I haven't heard them really connected to Eugenio, but he did hit 49 home runs last year, and he does hit a lot of pull side fly balls. So you would think in Fenway Park that would play well. But I mean, I'm sure he's going to want a good amount of money coming off a 49 home run, 824 OPS season. So I don't know what the calculus is there. And then you'd have to move Marcelo back to second, and then you also still have Christian Campbell. So you have a lot of things that you have to kind of juggle and figure out here. If you're Boston, and maybe Gino fits in, maybe he doesn't. But I'm not that high on them going after Bichette either. I'm kind of at a loss a little bit about what Boston should do. I think Bregman was the move, and I think Marte might have really been the move. But if they weren't willing to give up any uncomfortable pieces to get Marte, then that's how you don't get him. All right, back to the chat here. I'm a Sox fan. I'm actually glad we moved on from Bregman. I can see that argument. I can. But I obviously, in the winning right now situation, that probably doesn't help things. So very curious what Breslow and company do to pivot out of this. Red Sox have no real leader in the clubhouse now. I don't think after Bregman, I can't really think of one. So I actually have a little insight on this. So let me go look at the roster here, and I'll let you know. So Story immediately jumps out. Story is probably your veteran leader right now on the offensive side. I don't know how Contreras is as a leader, but Story for sure is going to do a great job being a leader. Story is your guy. And then on the pitching side, I mean, Crochet, they're all going to follow Crochet, and they're going to follow, the Latinos are going to follow the work ethic of Chapman, and, Whitlock's another good role model guy, and Sonny Gray. I think they're covered on the pitching end, leadership-wise. I just think, yeah, to your point, they're not really covered very well on the position player side, but this puts a lot of onus on Trevor Story to be the guy. Trevor Story is 100% the leader of this team now. So I think Story is really good. I think he's even better with Bregman by his side. Meyer is fine at third, get a second baseman, and spam arms with the rest of the money. Yeah, I mean, again, they have as much starting pitching depth as any team in the league. These are the guys listed: Crochet, Gray, Bayo, Oviedo, and Sandoval. Not to mention, there's still Early, Tolley, and they have some others. Like, they have a lot of pitching depth. So if you're going to spam arms, you'd like them to be a little more high end, and a lot of that's gone, unfortunately. So they could build up their depth. The back end of this bullpen depth could be big. Zach Kelly, Moran, Watson, those guys aren't really moving the needle. They could improve that. Those spots, but really the top five is kind of locked in on this team. Chappie, Whitlock, Slayton, Weissert, and Hicks are all going to be there. Hicks has been disappointing. Honestly, he's a big X factor for the Red Sox too, because we've seen him be electric. We've seen him be really useful, but we've also seen him stink. So I think Jordan Hicks, getting him straightened out, is a big deal. And then this is another big wild card for their offense, is Mr. Tristan Casas. When does he come back? How does he impact the team? How do they find him at bats? What do they do with the Yoshida problem and the overcrowded outfield problem? I actually think because of their overcrowded outfield problem and maybe left-handed hitting to some extent, they could get creative with a trade. But I'd be curious to see. Also, Cutter Crawford's another part of that starting depth coming back too. So it's going to be intriguing to see. All right, here we go. Ooh, don't bite me. At least they have Drake May in Boston. Yeah. Sox are very rational, and avoiding the sunk cost fallacy is smart and all. But in the case of Bregman, you kind of have to be thinking about how he's the return for Devers and give him the NTC and $15 million. I just think this team has been talking about how they have momentum the last year or two. And I think this is going to be one of the more competitive AL East years we've seen in a long time, and I just think the bar is so high. This move hurts them right now. Is it maybe a good move for the next 5 years? I mean, yeah, maybe. If you're being rational, I get that. But like right now, how are you going to make the Boston Red Sox better for right now? Because this is where they were at last year. 89 and 73. I mentioned the Rays are always doing stuff. The Orioles have made huge moves this offseason, as have the Blue Jays to try to stay on top. And the Yankees are the Yankees. So I think this is a 5-team, everybody trying division, which you don't get everywhere. And that is a very interesting place to be in. Puppy, why are you chewing on my shirt? Red Sox are playing chess and the rest of the league is playing baseball. Yeah, so this does all come back a little bit to the choice of trading Mookie. I mean, at least with the ill will with the fan base. You think about what's happened over the past decade with the Red Sox fan base. You trade Mookie, out of it you get Verdugo, Connor Wong. Connor Wong's left, Verdugo. That didn't go as well as you had hoped. He didn't turn into the star you thought he would. So that doesn't pan out. Meanwhile, Mookie goes on to win MVP and a couple championships with the Dodgers. Then you got Xander, another enormous fan favorite. They end up not signing him when they probably could have via extension, but in a way they kind of dodge a bullet considering the amount of what he ended up going for to the Padres, which was an obscene amount of obscene amount of money that he should not have really been signed to. So they kind of dodged that bullet, but the team's like the fan base is kind of like, who am I rooting for? It actually goes back a step further when they had the 3Bs outfield that everybody was in love with: Jackie Bradley, Benintendi, and Mookie. All three of those guys are gone quickly. Benintendi, I mean, he kind of left town unceremoniously. Jackie Bradley kind of got ran out of town. But yeah, it's a totally different team. I mean, it's not that long ago, the 2018 juggernaut Red Sox, no JD Martinez, no Chris Sale. All these guys are gone. And as they're trying to reimagine this team, there's just been a few missteps. And I think finally they got to a place of a little bit of momentum and excitement. And now you drop this Bregman bombshell on them right now where they don't really have a lot of, straightforward places to pivot. And I think that's a little bit of an issue. If they had a straightforward place to pivot, okay, it's fair to be rational. But when you don't have any place to pivot, maybe you do need to get a little bit uncomfortable right here. Story has more service time than the rest of the lineup outside of Contreras. Yeah, so I think Story's the guy. I mean, he's always had natural leadership ability. I saw it last year. The guys look up to him big time. He's such a hard worker. He's been through so much. He's such a grinder. Him and Bregman were a great duo leading that clubhouse, but I think Story and Crochet will dominate it from here on out, and that's fine. Those guys are hard-nosed and really good leaders. No, I disagree. I think Story is a leader within that clubhouse. You might not see it. It might not be obvious when you're watching the games, and I guess Bregman was getting a ton of the quotes and the comments, but I saw it last year firsthand when I was around. Story is a huge, huge, huge. He's a huge ally to these young guys, and I think he fills that void a little bit. All right, let's keep going. Suarez over Bohm, but Bohm is cheaper. I guess speculating that Bohm could be a potential trade asset. Yeah, you could probably get him pretty easily from Philly, which I think is intriguing. But at the same point, he's been underwhelming for a reason in Philly, right? He's more of a line drive, contact type hitter, not as much impact. He tends to go the other way really well. Don't know what type of fit he would be in Boston, so we'll see. Oh, I also saw this. Casas had a tremendous quote. Maybe I can find it really quick. This is just Tristan Casas. This is a horrible Google, but we'll find it. Yeah, it's right here. He had a really good quote here. Where is it? Oh, this was last year. Anyway, it's here in the AI. He said that basically Will Contreras is a better player than him. And basically what he's saying is they did what they had to do. I haven't been out here. I haven't been healthy. And he's not the type of guy who's going to sit there and be upset and cry to the media because his job is taken by this trade. He understands why it was taken. He hasn't been healthy. He hasn't proven that he can stay on the field. Red Sox are trying to win. They're a winning ball club, and they needed to make a move. So they go ahead and make the move. I just think his mindset's really good because a lot of times in this situation, like he's realizing that he needs to reprove it. He needs to come back out there and when he gets his opportunity, show what he can do rather than hoping for an opportunity. He's willing to create his own opportunity, which is kind of the mindset that you need to have in this game, but definitely the mindset you want to have from a guy who has a lot of, like, it's not that he has a lot to prove, which he does, but it's more so he has a long road ahead of him if he's going to become the guy that you envision. And without this type of mindset, the I'm going to take on this challenge mindset, you'll never get there. So kudos to Casas for basically saying that this was the right move and that, he'll factor in when he deserves to factor in, which I think is great. I know Ketel Marte is believed to be staying in Arizona, but is there any way the Red Sox make an offer the D-backs can't refuse? Now, this is what I'd be doing. See, to me, trading for Ketel Marte is not your average trade. For me, you're getting a top 10 player in baseball, top 10 offensive player in baseball who's on a cheap contract. So let's revisit Ketel Marte and his cheap contract right now, as well as his numbers from the last few years, because there's a reason why the ask for him is so big, and a lot of it has to do with these salaries. So 2026, 15 million this year, 12 next year, then 20, 22, 22, and then there's a player option on the back end. So you can probably guarantee that that'll get picked up as he's 37 at that point. That's just a way to kind of spread the money out. But ultimately, this is a very low salary for what he brings to the table. 4.4 WAR last year, 893 OPS, 145 OPS plus, 28 dingers, and that's more of the same. Look at the last 3 years, 4.9 WAR, 6.8 WAR, and 4.4 WAR. This is a superstar player, and he plays the position they need, second base, and he's a switch hitter, so he doesn't hurt any of their platoon situations. What it comes down to is Arizona's going to want a huge haul for this guy because of all that control and that cost and the quality of the player. And if they want you to give up on a young starting pitcher, it comes down to how do you evaluate that player. Now, me personally, from the small amount of time that I've evaluated the Red Sox, if Peyton Tolley was the one holding up this deal, I would 100% send Peyton Tolley to Arizona. I think he's got a great fastball, but I think he's got a long way of development to go to become an actual starter. And if that's the only roadblock between you and getting a Ketel Marte, then that should be no roadblock at all, in my opinion, if I were running the team, which I'm not. So I do think they should revisit this and see what the actual cost is. Now, the cost might have just went up, realizing that there's less options on the table, and now Arizona can ask for some more things and be a little more rigid with their requests. But I'd still be kicking the tires on this pretty hard because this is the player that could unlock your offense. You put Ketel Marte in here, this Red Sox team is a lot different. So I'd be big on that. Yes, Trevor Story is injury prone, but that doesn't affect your ability to lead. Honestly, in a lot of ways, being a guy who's gone through injuries and come out the other side, it only increases your ability to lead because you can relate to people who are in tough spots. There's no way Contreras is going to catch. This is a good question, Carlos. I will actually listen to Alex Cora talk a bit about Contreras, and he's the emergency catcher. He's not expected to catch. I only see a 3-team trade. Brian Ketel from the D-backs to get the pitching they want back. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they just said that they're not going to trade him, but you can say that. That could all be posturing, So whatever comes out in the public and the media, just got to take it with a grain of salt. A lot of times it's meant to sway the vibe of a conversation more so than actually end it. So just pay attention to that. And Tolley has only 1 year of pro ball. Isn't it common to only have one pitch at that point? All right. Let me just get into Peyton Tolley for 2 seconds about why I think what I think. All right. And I loved watching his debut. He's definitely has an outlier fastball when you consider everything. The speed, the handy which he throws with. He also has a low release and he has incredible extension, 99th percentile extension. So the fastball will play, no doubt about it. The fastball is incredible. The fastball is everything. I just really don't like his other pitches. He hasn't shown an ability to execute them yet. Now, not to say he won't figure that out, but you cannot be a one-pitch pitcher as a starter in the big leagues. And the reality is, now that he's knocking on the door of the big leagues, now that he's been in the show, and he'll be in the show again this year. The clock is starting to tick on what his role is going to be. It's not going to take long for a team to pivot out of him starting and say, just throw that fastball at the top of the zone and develop one other pitch and become a good reliever for us. It's not going to take long for them to do that if he's showing, growing pains trying to figure out the rest of his arsenal as well as the command of the other pitches in his arsenal. Now, when I broke him down, I liked his changeup to some extent. It's these green dots. That's sort of a weird changeup shape, but it has negative vert, which is really good when contrasted with how much his four seam rides. So if he could learn to control these green balls, these changeups, like here's an example of a swinging strike on a changeup from Peyton Tolley to Rooker. If he could learn how to command this pitch better, that would be, for me, probably the pitch that would take him the furthest because it's got the best contrast off of that fastball he throws, which is incredibly electric. But every time that I watched him pitch, his execution rate on this changeup was something like 2 out of 10, right? It wasn't anything crazy. I'm looking for a good fastball from Tolley here. All I'm seeing is balls so far, so I'm just trying to grab one here. Here's a fly out. Speaking of Arizona, this is when he pitched against them. Almost gets clipped here by Gabriel Moreno. I don't know. I've seen enough players, like, yes, it's an outlier fastball. It might be the best fastball in the minor leagues, him and Jonah Tong from this past year, but that doesn't make you a great starter. It just makes you a guy with a great tool. So because of that, I'm not as high on him at this exact moment, just because he's kind of getting rushed up there. Like, he's going to be in the big leagues this year one way or another at times. And I could see it very easily going the way of reliever. And if you're not willing to trade a reliever, no matter how dominant, for a Ketel Marte, then you don't know baseball. So I don't think that's the only thing. I think it would take more than him, to pry Ketel Marte free, but he shouldn't be the roadblock. On top of that, there's some stuff with his delivery, and I'm not a delivery expert, but I'll show you on the Dugout app what I'm talking about. Maybe we can even find it from the Diamondbacks versus Red Sox. And we'll look for, here's Tolley. I'll just start right away. So this was the first pitch of the game. It's a fastball going at Marte. This would be the trade, which is what's funny. But I'm going to show you from the side angle. When Peyton Tolley's front foot lands, look where his arm is. It's late. Now, being late on its own, not always the worst thing in the world, but he's also kind of flipped down. And I feel like this is putting a lot of stress on the shoulder. It's making that ball pop out late and have a lot of hump on it, and it's probably hiding it pretty well. But this moment right here where he's at full weight-bearing foot strike, and this arm is not up yet, foot's down, arm's not up yet, that concerns me a little bit. So I have not only concerns about his ability to develop his other pitches, this is also part of that too. He's not getting the hand out front in time. You're not going to get your breaking ball where you want if you don't get the hand out front. If you're throwing everything from back behind you, you're not going to be able to create the proper spin. You're not going to be able to create the proper tunnels. So it's for these two reasons that if this was the thing holding them up, I wouldn't hesitate. But we don't know if that's true or not. So I just wanted to point that out before we moved on to other things. Let me get back in the chat here. Heard some Sox content creators grumbling about Breslow being too stubborn, tied to his model, and gaining a rep for being difficult to trade or negotiate free agent deals with. I talked to Brez on the phone last year when I was sort of trying to convince them to give me a major league contract, because I just told them, like, look, I'm not a minor league player. So if you want me, I need to be a big league player. Ended up not happening. Ended up signing the minor league deal, going over there, and then not making the team. I don't know. He seemed personable enough on the phone. Reputation is that he's not, but it seemed okay to me on the phone. I do think, to some extent, if all of your competitor teams that you negotiate with think you're a great guy, you're probably not as good a negotiator as you should be. They should probably not like you that much, right? Because you're making their life too easy if they like you all the time, and that's probably screwing you. At the end of a negotiation, you want both sides to be a little disappointed. So maybe that strategy works for Brez. But I don't know him personally. I just think ultimately the human side of these things, and we've seen it with a lot of GMs this winter. The human side definitely comes in, and some guys have mastered that, and some guys have no idea how to do that. And that's to me, that's a big dividing line in terms of long-term success in one of these leadership positions. Hi, Archie. That's an ornament. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah.
You want to say hi real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, come. Come. I pick you up. Okay, we got the dog, and now we got the boy. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, you go. You go back to mama. And this is the doggy still. Hi. All right. So Carl agrees with me. Great deception, but I see some injury risk in Tolley. I'd give 100% move him in the right deal. That's the way I feel too. But I understand it's really hard, and this guy's got a great personality, and he did fly through the minors. Like a lot of the result-based stats, stuff that you'd be looking at, even some of the stuff modeling would be telling you, like, you should trust this guy. You should try this. Like, you don't want to miss out on his peak. But I tell you right now, just me personally looking at him, I have some doubts. I think Early's the more polished pitcher by far. So I'd rather give up Tolley, but I understand that the fastball's special. You know, while we're here doing this, let's go look at what the stuff metrics said on Peyton in his debut year from Fangraphs. All right, so there it is. 120 on the four seam, 98 on the sinker, 112 on the cutter, 123 on the slider, 133 on the curve, 121 on the change. So that's massive stuff plus. Massive stuff plus. But a lot of these breaking ball numbers are driven by velocity. And honestly, the execution rate has been so low when I've watched him that I'm not 100% confident. Now, I didn't get to watch all of his minor league starts. I admittedly, there's some limitations there to what I do know about this guy. But just off of what I've seen, I think the location plus of 92 is spot on. So it's like great fastball with some other pitches that are maybe useful, but he can't throw them where he wants to yet. And ultimately, in baseball, it doesn't matter how good your stuff is. If you can't throw it where you want, you're in big trouble. Pitching Bot loves him a ton. They give him a 68 stuff rating, which is insane. That's like basically all-star level stuff. They actually give him above average command. I disagree on that, at least on the early going of what we've seen. He did throw first pitch strikes, but yet still had a bad walk rate. I don't know. There's a lot there, but that's my initial read on Tolley. No doubt about it. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Daisy looks like a stuffy. She does. PCA will benefit being around Bregman 1,000%. He's one of the biggest winners in this deal. What does PCA struggle with? Plate discipline. Game within the game at the plate. Who's the best in the big leagues that may be teaching that from a mentor side? I'd say there's two guys that come to mind, JD Martinez and Alex Bregman. So now he's got Alex Bregman riding shotgun with him. You know they're going to be tight. You know they're going to be a really good duo. You know Dansby's another guy who's going to get his game leveled up. I like the personalities coming together in this Cubs locker room. So PCA is a huge benefactor to that. Ooh, my 2.5-year-old is named Archer. We call him Archie too. He's Archer. Archer is his name, not Archibald. We do call him Archibaldi sometimes for fun, but Archibaldi. But for most part, he's Archie, or Archer. PCA is the wild card to the Cubs lineup. To me, had an MVP first half, hard second half. What player is he, and what adjustments will he make coming into the season? It's a really hard question to answer because as baseball players go, you don't want to take their aggression away. But second percent chase rate from PCA is too much. It's at 41.7%. Almost half the pitches that are outside the zone, he's swinging. If that number can get into the low 30s, which would still probably not be anywhere close to the leaderboard, that would be more than enough for him to benefit with more balls in play. Because simply put, this guy puts the ball in play, great things happen. He's got almost league average exit velo, and that's coming from a tiny little a tiny little package with actually pretty good, I believe, max exit velo. Yeah, max exit velo, 85th percentile. So he has the ability to pack a punch, drive the ball out of the yard. We also know he absolutely flies, 96th percentile sprint speed. So you're talking about an offensive profile where he has above average strength and speed. So basically, you put the ball in play with that package, a lot of good things are going to happen. Extra base hits, infield hits, home runs, and then when he's on base, he's a nightmare to deal with because he can run. And we all know what he can do on defense. I think this is a potential MVP type of player, but that's the biggest thing that has to come down is that chase percentage. I don't even care about the 23rd percent whiff. I don't even care about him not getting a lot of walks. Ultimately, that will come up when he's chasing less as well, but it's just he cannot swing at everything. We've seen it with Javi Baez before. There are some players in this game that are electric and they're incredible talents, but they give the pitcher a get out of jail free card. All you got to do is throw him strike one, and you throw him a bunch of pitches in the ground. And that's it. Then they're kind of cooked. I want to see if I can pull up a fun at bat, actually. Should be Ottavino versus PCA. When I was trying to punch my way out of a bad situation in, I believe it was 2023 in Wrigley. Not this game. Cubs, Mets. Might have been 24. Nope. We're going to find it. Don't worry. Hold on. Oh, my bad. It was at Wrigley. I keep clicking on the wrong one. Yeah, it's this one. All right, PCA versus Ottavino. 10 pitch at bat. Base man on second and third, trying desperately not to give up these runs. All right, so first pitch sweeper, because you know he's gonna swing. And what is it? It's a chase on an 0-0 pitch. How big was that? 16? That pitch he should have crushed. Another sweeper. So sweeper, sweeper. This one's backdoor. This pitch he should have crushed, but now we're in the 0-2 count. Now we go for the sinker front door. Almost got him, but he tipped it foul. Four seam up off of that. Too high. There's a good take. See, I'm expecting him to chase. And he does. That's off the plate in, hits it foul. But now I feel like I got him in swing mode, so now I try to go up and away for the chase. Good take. Good take. He needs to do more of that. But you can see the game plan is he's going to swing at a ball. He can't lay off forever. Ooh, lays off again. This is what happens when you do spit on some pitches. And then we go back to the well with the slider. And then eventually I throw him a cutter to punch him out here on pitch 10. And again, it's a chase. That was a good pitch. He hadn't seen that one yet. He saw a lot of slow breaking balls and fastballs, so finally I switched pitch type, and I knew that he was in swing mode, and we were able to tie him up there. But ultimately, you saw in that at-bat, there was some good take, and there was a whole bunch of bad take, and that's really what it comes down to with a batter like PCA, is learning how to spit on more pitches, creating an environment where he can still get his A swing off, you know, not being the type of guy that you can just throw one ball over the dish and then a whole bunch of balls in the gutter for. I think she might have to go pee, so I'm going to go put her in her kennel for a second, all right? Just give me 2 seconds. I think she might have to pee. She's been very restless, so I'm going to put her in the kennel for a second. Because I think they have a delivery coming in this area or something. But we have fruit, so I guess we could use more stuff. All right, bring her back if you need to. But love you. All right. Problem is we had like a low down kennel, and she kept escaping the whole weekend. So now we took like an old thing that we had for our son that's a lot higher, and then but the problem is there's like holes in the bars that she could get through. So then we had to take like storage bin lids and tape them all the way around so the dog can't escape right now. I don't know. We're gonna get her trained though here coming up, and then she'll be able to roam the house and stuff. But right now she's peeing and pooping everywhere, so it's a whole thing. All right, random question. Did I know Harrison Bader growing up? Did not know him growing up. I'm way older than him, but obviously, once he got into the big leagues, I was made aware that he went to Horace Mann, that he was a New York guy, Bronxville guy. I knew a coach that coached him, coached me, and then we ended up being teammates. So, pretty cool. It's so funny when it's quiet enough in the ballpark to hear all the grunts from the players you can't hear when the crowd. You're bringing her back?
She wants you.
Okay. Did she pee?
She did.
Oh, she peed. Okay, good. I could tell she had to. I could tell.
I'm so tired.
You're tired?
Oh my god, dogs are so much work.
Yeah, they are a lot of work.
I'm a sick kid.
What'd you say?
I'm
And a sick kid.
I've dropped 3 ornaments.
Broke them?
Shattered.
All 3? Oh, God. Okay.
So this is the smart way to not have to put ornaments away.
Just break them all.
Just smash them.
Yeah, it's a smart way. Then you got to vacuum them, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. In 2020, to this question here, 2020, you could hear everything. A lot of F-bombs, super loud F-bombs. I actually remember playing in, I want to say Baltimore in 2020. There was no people in the ballpark. And I think Mike Talkman hit like a double or something. And we were out there in the bullpen, and Tommy Canley was yelling, as he does, "Sock man! Sock man!" And like you could hear him, it was echoing in the entire stadium. So I don't know. Baseball is much better when there's that hum of the crowd, and then everything's kind of white noise. But when it's quiet and you can hear the lights buzzing, like you could used to hear them in the Florida State League when I was in the minor leagues, that's not exactly as fun, in my opinion. So I don't think it's bigger than your whole apartment. Let's relax. It's fairly big though. I'll give you credit for that. All right. So again, we've kind of covered a lot of this. Red Sox. And from the Red Sox perspective and from the Cubs perspective, I think, yeah, it's a disappointing day for the Red Sox. Now we're gonna have to see how they pivot. What's the moves from here? But I thought it would also be interesting just to look at these Bregman home runs from last year, and you can see how most of them are straightaway pull side. Now here's a couple in the gap. These will play. These will play in Fenway. I mean, that's pretty good. That'll play. That'll play in Riggs. Ooh. Trying to look at all these gappers, because these are a little more where you want to hit it in Wrigley. Right at that scoreboard in left center is where it tends to fly. It would be like this trajectory. But most of his pull power is right down the line. So, I just think stylistically it's definitely something to think about, and I'm sure everybody thought about it. That's why I never liked Detroit as a fit for him either. We've never seen Bregman without a really cheap home run, available to him to left. Wonder what his home road splits were last year. Let's go look that up for fun. Home away. Crazy. 12 home runs on the road, though, last year. So, 875 OPS away from Fenway. So, okay. So maybe that's dispelling it a little bit, What about for the career? Because really, the whole career, you would think he would be better at home. Actually, better away. So this is probably a lot of what Boris was pumping out there. Oh, you think he's ballpark related, which I've talked a lot about today. But yeah, 852 OPS on the road for career, 838 at home, with a similar amount of home runs and a similar amount of plate appearances. All right, so maybe, but I still think Wrigley's going to play big for him, especially right down the lines. I guess we're just gonna have to watch it play out, see if he gets frustrated at all. But I do think his line drive swing and kind of the way that he, what he adds to a lineup, I think will make the offense that much better. Even if his own individual power numbers, decline somewhat. So I don't know. For a year or two, I like it. After that, I'm not really sure, and I'm not really sure why the Cubs were so fixated on Bregman over some others, but they were, and so we'll have to watch that play out. And as for the Red Sox, we just wait and see how they pivot. All right, let me get in here into the chat, and there's a couple other moves to look at too. All right, did I play with anyone when we were younger who ended up in MLB? Yes, Pedro Alvarez. There was a team called the New York Giants that operated out of Upper Manhattan, Washington Heights area, which is where he's from. He actually played at Horace Mann as well, same private high school that Harrison Bader went to. And one of the deans at that high school had a kid that was a baseball player who ended up playing at Columbia. They ran like this travel organization for a little while. Me and another kid, Rob Yotis, were like ringers for this team where we'd play in tournaments. So that's the first time I met Pedro Alvarez. We played in tournaments together. Age 12, 13, 14, 15-ish range. And then also Dylan Betances, even though he's younger than me, he played for the same organization that I came up playing with, which was Youth Service League in Brooklyn. So I saw his rise. Pedro Beato was a guy who I played a ton of travel ball with, who played in the big leagues a little bit with the Red Sox and Phillies and Mets. He was like the biggest prospect in high school that I played with. And then there's some other guys that were around, like Todd Frazier, in Jersey. And there's some other guys that were around, Long Island guys that were a little younger than me, Steve Matz, Marcus Stroman, some other city kids that, made it semi-far, but those are the biggest ones to stand out from an MLB standpoint. PCA, me, and Gio, how many other MLB players have actor parents? That's a good question. I don't know. You would think mostly California kids. I'm a little different, I guess, in that way. All right, let's get this out of the way. We don't do a lot of rumor talk, but there has been a report. Let me see if I can find if there's anything new here on MLB trade rumors about this. Basically, they're reporting that the Yankees and Bellinger are at some sort of impasse. And that they've offered him over $30 million a year already. I don't know about some of these. Again, this is all rumor mill stuff. $37 million yearly. Personally, I wouldn't sign him to this type of contract. I don't think he's worth that much. I think right around 30 is fair. I think he's a versatile player, but I also think, the years is a whole nother thing. I think he fits really well on a team like the Mets. And actually probably a lot of teams, but I'd be stunned if he ends up getting the $37 million a year. I don't think he's worth that personally. I think 30 is right around 30, 6 years, get the job done. And I'm a big fan of Cody. I think he's a really good winning player. But yeah, 37 seems a little bit high to me. And if that's the case, I don't expect him to get that. I think his demand will have to come down at some point. But right now, I think you might as well shoot for the moon while you can. So it's just so dumb to look at this stuff because all this stuff's floated out by different teams. The Yankees float out the impasse thing to kind of scare his camp. They float out numbers, to kind of let everybody know what it's going to take. Yeah, what's up, baby?
All done.
All done?
Yeah.
Good boy. I love you.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, 5-6 years at 30, I think is reasonable for what this market is. But yeah, 37's high for me. And honestly, it's all just nonsense. Now that Bregman's out of the way, we're gonna probably get Bichette next, and then we'll get one of Tucker, Bellinger, and then we'll get the other. And it all just goes one domino at a time. Maybe Cody's next, maybe he's not. We'll see. Yeah, 6 years may be too many. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't like to go 6 years, but it seems like that's what it's going to be around. Also, the Yankees are known to do the thing like they did with LeMahieu, too, where they get to the number, whatever the total guarantee is going to be, and then they just spread it out over a couple extra years. Like they offer 8 years for like 180, which would be 6 at 30, right? So, yeah, they offer 8 years, 180, instead of 6. And then it just gets spread out, and you can always just buy out of that, and it keeps your cost down now to make other moves. So that's always a possibility. But the Yankees are going to do something shortly. I just think a lot of stuff you're seeing in the media is kind of a way of threatening each other. This is like where the negotiation gets a little feisty. And then, honestly, the longer it goes, the more I think the pendulum swings in favor of the team because then the player gets antsy. But Cody's been through it a few times now. I think this is his third free agency, so him and Boris have a plan, and we'll see how it plays out. So far, things have done well for Boris clients. This is a big one, though. This is a big one. Ooh, 362 Chop says, truthfully, he's a 4 for 100. So 4 years at 25 a pop. The thing is, and we've said this a number of times, we've referenced this quote a number of times, if you're rational on free agents, you're going to finish third on free agents. I think this is a very rational take. 25 a year, 4 years, everybody would love that. But the question is, does that get the player? And the answer is usually no. Usually no. It usually goes to the team that's willing to get a little bit uncomfortable. He did nothing but strike out on splitters and play with his fingers nails during the ALDS. You sound like a Yankee fan today, only, and you know, a lot of stuff, you know, gets super magnified in the postseason. And I agree, he got absolutely owned by Gaussman and Savage in that series. So that's all true. All right, let's do a couple other moves that happened right now. Let me put up the quote. Spectre's got it. This is an Andrew Friedman quote. Obviously, he knows a little bit about it because they've signed a lot of free agents. Dodgers are more than willing to not be rational at times, and yet they've won 2 championships. So seems like maybe they're onto something there. All right, we had 2 relievers sign recently. One of them was Pierce Johnston, who I've been saying for a while that I think he's really good. And now the Reds go ahead and grab him. I just saw the deal came through, $6.5 million. Is that the deal for this guy? But I think that's great. I think he's really good, man. Great breaking ball, tremendous curveball, 85.8 on the curveball. So it's a power curveball. It's sort of a combo, has some gyro on it, has some sweep on it, has some drop on it. Bottom line is it moves a lot for the speed it's at. He's cranked that usage up, 72% usage, maybe a bit too high. He does get a little more predictable now. Still throwing 95.3 on the 4-seam. He had tremendous run with the Braves. These are the past few years. He did come over from the Rockies, similar to Tyler Kinley, who's over there now, who they just brought back from the Braves, who was awful with the Rockies. And then as soon as he gets to sea level, all of a sudden spamming breaking balls, and it's just dominating. So I'm a big fan of Pierce Johnson. And it is also very hard to get through airport security with a Pierce Johnson. But I think he's really good, man. Like, this breaking ball is no joke. Like, this is just going to be a ball here. But this thing's got tilt on it. It's got angle on it. He gets lefties out. For me, he's one of the better breaking balls in the league. I'm just watching balls now, which is kind of stupid. But I've been wondering who was going to pick him up. I knew it was going to be a 1-year deal. But Pierce Johnson's got a nasty hook. And I like the fact that he's pretty good against both sides. And, you know, he knows who he is as a pitcher now. Maybe throw a few more fastballs. But overall, I do like the curveball as it is. It's an interesting pitch, though, I have to say. Total amount of active spin on it, 48%, 41%. So I mentioned it was kind of in the middle there. There's enough spin on it to create a little bit of Magnus force, but also a little bit of a gyro action on it there as well. You know, so it's sort of in between, and he's still able to put enough speed on it. 85.8. Thought you said Pierce Johnson. Did I say Johnston? No, Johnson. Sorry. Anyway, see you later, 362 Chop. Appreciate you. Anyway, let's go look at how this impacts the Reds bullpen. Reds have made a couple of smaller time moves here. Trying to strengthen their ball club. Pagan, Santillan, Ashcraft, Caleb Ferguson, and then Pierce Johnson. I think Pierce Johnson's going to move up on this list. I think he'll be more of an 7th or 8th inning guy. Connor Phillips got a decent arm. Sam Mole's pretty tough to hit. So they're building out one of these mid-tier arm bullpens to pair with their really, really high impact starting staff, and they're going to try to go after the Cubs and the Brewers in this division, and the Pirates, I guess. But Pierce was somebody that I thought a lot of the teams were going to be in on, so I'm a little bit surprised that he ends up going to the Reds, but that's a good signing for them. That's going to majorly strengthen this bullpen. I like it a lot. You know, the offense was disappointing last year. Maybe it bounces back a little bit this year because they have a hell of a pitching staff. Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Brady Singer, Nick Lodolo, Chase Burns. And then Pagan they brought back, who I didn't like that signing as much for the price. I mean, he's getting $10 million a year. I don't think he's a $10 million a year pitcher, but Pierce Johnson's a good signing. So they have a lot more guys now, you know, on the lead up to Emilio, and I think that's a good thing. Interesting move there by the Reds. One thing about Pierce Johnson. Let me find out what. Let me show you a little bit of what Stuff Plus has to say about his breaking ball, because I think it's going to love it. Well, it has it as a 107. At one point, it was up to a 118. I don't know what's changed on that. Looks like it's come down a little bit. The last few years could be slight velocity thing, but yeah, it looks like he's a total one-pitch pitcher at this point. But I just think his curveball is really good. Even though he's spamming it, if he could figure out a way to maybe throw his fastball a little bit more, adjust his usage a little bit, I think he still has a very good chance of being super effective. Looks like the command's gotten a little better, but yeah, he's definitely dealing with a diminished level of fastball shape. Like his fastball shape's not any good. Yeah, no extension either, so the fastball plays down speed-wise. What's he in extension? He is 6th percentile extension, so that's probably why, even though he throws 95, 96, probably feels like 93, 94 in the box. The actual movement on said curveball that we like so much, negative 4.3 and 7.4 to the left at 86. So that's the thing. It's a lot of movement for the speed, and I think that's why we like it so much. And the fact that it's a curveball, not a slider, allows him to be a little better versus opposite-handed hitters and not just be a righty specialist. So just wanted to point that out. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is early. Imagine when I did it from the West Coast a little bit in my hotel room at 7 a.m., which we'll be doing again next year when I'm doing broadcasts and stuff, and I'm somewhere on the road. So it's okay. Too many teams treat 90% of their bullpen as fungible, but what do I know? I'm just some guy. Yeah, well, I mean, definitely at least the last 2 or 3 spots always are going to be churned at this point, and that's just kind of the model now. Churn it up, protect the couple guys that you are paying. Maybe one of your churn guys pops into a guy, right? That's kind of the method to the madness there. What was the other move that happened the other day? I know there's a couple of under the radar moves here. All right, Tyler Kinley. I guess it's Tyler Kinley. All right, so Tyler Kinley goes back to the Braves. He's an interesting one because he came over there at midseason last year and really, really shoved, and now they just bring him right back. So let's pull up Tyler Kinley. He had the misfortune of being a Rocky for a pretty long time and went and endured a pretty rough stretch there. 6.06 ERA in 18 games in 23 and a 6.19 ERA in 67 games in 24. Last year, he was so dominant for the Braves that this isn't going to even like the 396 doesn't really tell the whole story. So let me go switcherooski over to his splits real quick so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. This guy was unbelievable with the Braves and really struggling with the Rockies last year. Well, you can see it right here. First half, 6.38 ERA in 44 games in 42 innings. And in the second half, a .59 ERA in 29 games. He gave up 2 earned runs in his last 30.1 innings for the Braves. So that's what they're buying into. 32 strikeouts and 7 walks. Now, I messed that up a little bit. We didn't even have to look at that. We could have just looked here. So for the Braves, he pitched 24 games with a .72. And for the Rockies, he ended up with a 5.66. So it all turned around when he went over there. He's another guy. He's a slider monster. 64% slider. It's a bullet spin gyro. Kind of similar to Pierce Johnson, although it's more of a slider than a curve. It's 2 breaking balls. And, you know, kind of a weird, cutty, not very lifty fastball, although that's probably broken down a little bit by the cores effect. Let's see if we can cherry pick a slider. No, that's not very good. I need one that's going to be a swing or something. Here's a pop out. I've often felt like Kinley lacks a little bit of deception, and the main reason for that is because let me go find a game with Kinley in it. So let's just go like towards the end of the year. So he probably faced the Marlins at some point. So Marlins, Braves. Here's Kinley. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. Number one, look at the lead leg. The lead leg lands open. And so look how early you can see that ball. He opens up super early, and he just shows you the crap out of this ball, right? No extension, so the fastball is going to play down. But what this getting in this position does do is allows you to create incredible leverage over your gyro slider, and that's why he has such a good gyro slider. But this is a little bit of what Kinley's presentation is. So he's going to rely on pure stuff and the basics, like the fundamentals, getting ahead in the count, all in an effort to tunnel that slider really well. But he's a guy that I think would have been a lot more effective had he had a little bit more deception. But I personally believe that he really lacks a lot of that, and he's a one-trick pony in this slider way with kind of below-average command. But the results were so good that the Braves signed him back up. Again, 2 runs in 30 innings is pretty darn good. But I don't know. Time will tell if this is a good move or not. They're not paying him a ton of money. But this is something we've seen a few times now over with the Braves. They trade for a player, they fix the player goes off, and then they re-sign the player. So that's Tyler Kinley. He fits in on this bullpen. Iglesias, Suarez, those are the high-price guys. Dylan Lee, they're fighting in arbitration, but he's a stud. And then Kinley and Bummer. It's a pretty good top 5, top 6. But I have a little bit of question marks about Kinley. I know he was great last year, but when he got over there. But again, I think the lack of deception, and the fact is he hasn't been super dominant for most of his career. So that's an interesting move for them. There's some good stuff in the quote here in the chat here because I did miss a few things. Ryan Stanek. All right, let's get into Stanny. Stanny, a friend of mine from when he was with the Metros, struggled pretty mightily, to be honest, over the last few years. But he's a stuff plus darling, throws hard, and the Cardinals are buying into it. It's a deal with a team option on the back end, $3.5 million, I think. But I mean, you look at the bottom line results the last few years, and it is a little puzzling at times why a guy like this gets $3.5 million. To keep pitching when, as you can see, he hasn't really been good since 2022. Sure, he throws hard. Is it effective? I don't know. Let's see what the stuff models are saying currently about Stanek. They have him as a 104 on 4-seam, 118 on sinker, which is a new pitch, 134 on split, 131 on slider, which he doesn't throw much. So the stuff models, because of this sinker shape, and the fact that they're actually really liking his slider more now than before, has him as a 116 stuff plus. So if you're looking for why a guy like this gets signed, it's because of this number, 116 stuff plus. So this is a very modern day signing. Teams are looking at the underlying stuff metrics. They're looking at things under the hood, and then they're projecting performance forward. Now, for me, this is very similar to how I felt about who's the lefty, Soto, that the Pirates signed that was a Met last year. It's like I get the stuff metrics. I understand the talent level. But at some point, you would want the results to line up a little better, right? And now we're getting into a territory with Stanek where he's got pretty much no choice, in my opinion, but to be good this year, or eventually his time's going to run out. Yeah, 2022, basically everything went right. He had a 1.15 in low leverage for Houston that year. But since then, the run prevention's just not been there. These are the aggregated numbers since 23 for Stanek, 4.78 in 183 games with negative WAR every year. So it just shows you nowadays they don't do a lot of evaluating anymore. They do a lot of projecting forward, and he's a benefactor of that, beneficiary of that because his stuff's still good. He still throws really hard, averaging 98.5 on the four seam. He still gets chase. He still gets whiff. These three metrics right here, velocity, chase, and whiff, those things are 100% factoring really heavily in the model, in the free agent model now with a lot of these teams. It's the under the hood stuff. So that's what's propping up his free agent profile, even though the results haven't been there. Too many walks, getting hit too hard, too many barrels, doesn't get grounders. I mean, there's a lot of red flag here. But the Cardinals think it's worth a shot. $3.5 million. He's got good stuff. They bring him in. Maybe they get a good run. They can flip him at the deadline for more prospects as they continue into their rebuild. That's really all I have to say about Stanley. He's always had good stuff. He's not afraid to take the ball. He's a bulldog. But honestly, the results need a completely 180. Or I thought it was already over, but I guess it's not. He's going to get one more year to kind of prove it, and then we'll go from there. Definitely rooting for it to happen, but we'll see. Haven't talked about Jake McCarthy trade yet. We'll do that next. Always rooted for Stanek and Soto. Great stuff. Feels like Mets signed great stuff, guys, and prayed that their pitching lab could fix them. It's just funny because I guarantee you neither of one of those guys threw in the pitching lab. So I think that's interesting to me. I wonder now that Mets have a new pitching coach will pivot to a new type of pitchers. Maybe. He came over from the Red Sox, Justin Willard. He's a big, really good at developing stuff. I think that will be the emphasis moving forward. Mets are going to chase stuff, no doubt about it, just like the Red Sox have been. I think that will be sort of what they do at a very high clip is chase stuff, add pitches to guys, add velo to guys, be very aggressive with under the hood stuff. Kepler busted for PEDs is another thing that happened. Maybe we'll finish up with that after we do McCarthy trade right now. All right, Jake McCarthy trade in division. Yes. So this was an interesting trade. Diamondbacks and Rockies. Jake McCarthy goes to the Rock Show. So I actually kind of really like the move for the Rockies. I have to look into the return a little bit more. I think it was one of the guys that they got from the Yankees, actually, Groats or something, in the McMahon trade. But yeah, Jake McCarthy. So for one thing, let's look at his profile on StatCast. All right. So for one thing, he's fast. He's always been fast. Very top of the end sprint speed. 99th percentile sprint speed, basically 30 feet per second at the very top of the scale. He's going to go out there and play outfield. Huge factor in course. If you're gonna run down balls in this outfield and course field, it's very nice that you have Brenton Doyle in center and Jake McCarthy in right. So I think from a defensive standpoint, he's a great fit for this ballpark. Also, he's been a contact hitter at times in his past. 2024 was a hell of a year for McCarthy. 285. Whatever he does this year, it has to be getting him back to putting the ball in play. He will be rewarded with his stuff, with what he has in terms of speed and bat path and all of those sort of things. He will be rewarded if he can get back to putting the ball in play. He gets back to putting the ball in play, he'll be rewarded with a big-time year in Colorado, and this skill set will work in Colorado. So it's an intriguing little move by them. I don't think it's going to help them win the division or even make the postseason, but at the end of the day, this is the type of player that does fit them stylistically. You're looking at the whiff percentage from when he was good. 2024, 86th percentile whiff, 83rd percentile K. Those are things you're looking for offensively at Coors. Those are guys who are not striking out. They're putting the ball in play. On top of that, I mentioned the speed factor. That's going to be a big deal. Singles into doubles, doubles into triples, and also on the defensive end. So from the Rockies, I don't think they had to give up a whole lot of future value to get a guy like this. And this is a kind of an experiment for them to see how this type of profile looks at Coors Field, and I think it's going to be really good. He's always had a little bit of a weird swing. I'm going to pull up a couple of home runs. He kind of sweeps into everything he does at the plate, which makes him a candidate to mess with his timing quite a bit. And I don't love his swing, but that's when it's right. That's an up and away fastball that he obliterates. He was just kind of blocked in Arizona, right? Let me look at Arizona. Debaculars. Yeah, like in their outfield right now, Corbin Carroll, Blaze Alexander, Alec Thomas, with some more guys coming. I could see Lawler moving to the outfield potentially. He's just kind of blocked. They didn't need another left-handed hitting speedy outfielder. That's kind of Alec Thomas ended up being that guy. McCarthy and him, I feel like we're in a silent competition they didn't know about for the past few years. Obviously, they end up giving up on McCarthy first. They send him off to the Rockies. So I like that. I don't really know much about the prospect that the Yankees gave up. I wonder if he ends up on the top prospects for the Diamondbacks. Where's that name? Thought it was Josh Grosh. 11th rounder in the 2023 draft out of East Carolina. Only been to high A basically. So this is a potential starting pitching prospect that has already been traded twice, so there must be some underlying factors that teams like. But, I think the Rockies are okay. They're probably setting up their infrastructure right now about how they want to play or develop on the pitching in the minor leagues. So going ahead and giving a guy away right now, not the worst idea in the world, because they're still getting their systems, underneath them. And now you get to get a little look at Jake McCarthy and see how this profile plays in Coors Field. Let's watch him hit a triple. I wonder if this is at Coors. Let's see. Unable to display that. All right, that sucks. What about this one? Can you give me this one? Baseball Savant doing maintenance today or something? What do we got going on today? Yeah, it's kind of weak. All right, they don't want me to watch it. They don't want me to watch it. All right, let's go back here. Rockies are doing some nice little things so far. My wish is that they get Bo. There's no way they're going to get Bo. They're not going to spend that money. It would be cute, though, with the Bichette connection to Colorado. And we're still holding out hope for our dream of a rise, potentially, although I don't really want it to happen because I want my guy Troy Johnston to have all the at-bats, as we just talked to him on Friday, and he was great. So, yep, I am still throwing. There's a question here about me still throwing. Yep, still throwing. Do I know anything about the new regime? I don't know anything about their philosophy yet, but they're going to modernize the crap out of this organization, which is what's needed for sure. Oh, and I have not mentioned Luis Acuna Barry Bonds. He did hit 4 home runs in winter ball the other day, which was pretty damn cool. I'm curious if I can actually pull that up, because I found the highlights the other day on the internet, like social media, and they were all nukes to left. But I didn't get them on the research tool. I tried to look it up the other day, so let's see if we can get it real quick. So it would have been 2 days ago, right? Like Sunday. No, it was probably Saturday. Yeah, Cardinales de Lara. All right, so I'm pretty sure we're not going to get them, but let's just... let's see if I click on it, if anything comes up. I feel like the research tool's been letting me down a little bit lately with the video clips. Yeah, video unavailable. I mean, we saw it on social media. It hit 4 nukes to left. 3 of them were off pitchers. The last one was off of a position player. But I don't know. He's an interesting player, obviously, because he got to play a little bit every day when Lindor was hurt. But other than that, he's mainly a defensive replacement. And I'll be curious to see how the puzzle pieces work together with the Mets in that middle infield. You got Mauricio, you got Beatty, you got Swaggy V, who actually was just taking ground balls with Bregman in Arizona last week. Interestingly, good place for him to go train. And then there's obviously also Acuna. So they have all 4 of those guys and Jet Williams. So all that's going to have to play itself out in the next year or two as they figure out who's a keeper, who's not. It seems like Beatty's at the top of the list right now. But I think that's definitely an evolving situation every month of this year. Bo is re-signing in Toronto. And Trey has been working on landing first pitch strikes down in the zone. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think he's going to sign in Toronto. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. They just got Okamoto. Ernie's going to have to play every day probably, right? So he's playing second. I just don't see it. But who knows? Random segue. Bam Bam Barger's K percentage and walk percentage trend positively September into the playoffs. My understanding is those stats stabilize quicker than most. Kind of intriguing for his upside. Yes, and considering also how big Barger swings, any type of improvement in these stats is exciting because he has good exit velocity. He has good raw tools. So if you're cleaning up some of the pitfalls of that approach, that's a good thing. Super tenuous connection to today. Potential pivot for the Sox, but the Jays would prefer Duran as their corner outfielder. Barger. I don't see these two teams trading with each other in division, but theoretically that would be a good trade that would feed two needs, one for each side. Pretty sure he turned into Lindor for that week. Talking about Acuna. Yeah, he was so good that week. You're right. He did go off. And I also think this is the type of guy. It's funny because you see this from time to time. I think he's a better hitter in the big leagues than what he's shown in the minor leagues. I think he's more locked in the big leagues. I just do. I also think his short stature and with the strike throwing in the big leagues, he gets more pitches to hit, and people underestimate him a little bit, and then he can kind of do damage. I also think, watching his brother, some of that's got to rub off on you a little bit, right? I mean, his brother's such a phenom. So, the athleticism is in there genetically, even though he's not as big as his brother. You got to think them working together can only help, right? The USA roster is the dream team. So, yeah, Buxton's now on it, huh? Let's see here. So you add Buxton to this. We already know that Harper, this is an older video. This is an older picture I'm showing, but this is the offensive guy. We know Harper's in there. So now you got PCA, Carroll, Judge. So I guess if you're facing a left-handed pitcher, 100% Buxton will be starting, I would imagine, in center. Definitely gives them some versatility, but yeah, this is a hell of a team. I mean, outside of Mookie not playing and a couple other small pieces, like not having Crochet in there or whatever, this is as good as it's ever been. You have speed, you have power, you have defense, and you have pitching. Skeen, Skubal, Webb, Ryan, Miller, Bednar, Boyd, Clevenger, Holmes, Jackson, McLean, Whitlock, and more spots to carry through. Not to mention, just how strong this team is. This team is very, very strong. They have to be the favorite. I saw Freddie dropped out for Canada, which sucks a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, Buxton, that's a luxury to have. He's an everyday player, and now they have 4 everyday players in the outfield. I could see Judge DHing at some point too. Could see that maybe. Since the 2024 trade deadline, the Jays have been actively trying to pair left-handed hitting next to Vladdy. Yeah, both of you guys are on this. Jays have been chasing a left-handed hitter since the Batista Encarnacion days. Acuna being bored in the minor leagues. I've heard similar things. And this is also a true comment. Don't think you can necessarily expect Ernie to be the player who was in the postseason. Could make sense to sign Bo and have Ernie stay as a super utility. I just think they have more of a need in the outfield. I think the infield's less of a need, personally. I think Ernie's a good fit to play every day in this lineup, put the ball in play. I think he'll play just as good of defense, if not better, at second base than Bo. I understand the clamoring for Bo, but you got to think they're going to drive a hard bargain at this point, as they feel like he'd be more of a luxury for them than a need. And so that's going to inform a little bit of the bargaining. I also know that Bo is, meeting with other big market teams. Red Sox should probably be in the mix now, Phillies. So the price might get to a place where the Blue Jays would rather not go. I do think Tucker's the more natural fit there. So I guess we'll just have to see. The Jays will trade Andres Jimenez and then they will sign Bo. That would be sick with Ernie at shortstop and Bo at second. I think there's no way this happens, but because I think Jimenez is a tremendous player. I would not want to trade him. But, man, I mean, I think if Bo was going back, that might have already been worked out again, right? I think this is going to get very tenuous. And also, we've seen a lot of incumbent teams lose out on bringing their player back. And I think there's been a lot of feelings hurt this year, whether it's Bregman or Alonso and some others. I see a lot of scenarios where players go on the market and they think that the incumbent team is going to really value what they've brought and they're going to pony right up for the deal, and then they haven't, and then they get offended and they go elsewhere. I'm seeing that potentially here with Bo. Without having any information, the fact that it's gone this long, I can see feelings getting hurt. So it wouldn't surprise me if this ended up in kind of a sad fashion for Blue Jays fans who definitely want Bo back. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The FanDuel odds have the Blue Jays still way ahead. So I don't know. I guess from a betting line perspective, it's kind of hard to set the line with another team when you don't know the level of interest they have when the Blue Jays have been on the record saying they want Bo back. So maybe that's why, but I think there's value. There's value in that FanDuel odds because I don't think anybody knows anything. I think Tucker signed short term, like what happened to Pete last year, looking at the free agent class for the next 2 years, and it's weak. That's true. Next year, I think if everything went according to plan, the top 2 free agents hitting-wise on the market would be Jazz, Chisholm, and Nico Horner. So Tucker looks great on that. I definitely feel like we don't know where we're at with Tucker. It seems like there's 3 finalists right now: Mets, Dodgers, Blue Jays. He could go short-term, high AAV opt-out situation like we've seen, or he could get paid all the money right now. We don't know, but I think he's still the prize of this class ultimately. Bo and Big Dave in Philly have a Zoom call today. He may sign today. Nobody usually Zooms and then signs the same day, but you never know. You never know. I also think $300 million for Bo is crazy. I mean, again, can we go look at Bo for another second? Because again, great player, big fan of him, but I do think that there is some concern here, a very natural concern. If you're thinking about $300 million. All right, so he's 27, so that should be a good thing, right? 27, you should be paying through prime athletic years. And we all know he can hit 311, 357, 483, 840 OPS. Outside of 24, he's been a great contact hitter with some power for his entire career, one of the best in the sport. So all those are positive things that will help any team. Yada, 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 right? He's exactly what teams don't have in their lineup that they'd like to have in their lineup. But these are the 2 metrics that scare the crap out of me. Number 1, range. First percentile outs above average. Now, I know he had a little burst where he was a little better in either 23 or 24 defensively, but that's scary when he wants to be paid as a shortstop, when I don't think he's a shortstop anymore. He's going to have to play second. Number 2, sprint speed, 21st percentile. And it tells the tale over here when you go through his whole career. This is the speed decline. It's been dramatic. I know he had a knee injury last year, and that might have contributed to getting way below league average. But if this holds, his defense is never going to improve because the range won't be there. And now there's some evidence that his athleticism is declining, which is the last thing you want to see. I know that's a 27-year-old free agent. Typically, that's the reason why you want them, is because you're not worried about an athletic decline during the first 4 or 5 years of their deal. Bat speed, 12th percentile. Now, he never probably had a high level of bat speed because he uses a 2-strike approach, and he's not exactly the strongest guy in the world. But the fact that it's coming down steadily over time, also not a good sign. So I know that he had this 70th percentile burst and outs above average in 24, but personally, I'm not buying it when you see the body of work from 4 of the last 5 years. So I'm concerned a lot about what he's really going to bring to the table defensively, base running, and then also just from a strength standpoint. Does the rest of his offensive game start to crater a little bit? I have questions about that. Obviously, you'd love to lock in that type of hitter into your lineup, but it's just no guarantee that he's going to be the same player as his physical abilities continue to decline. And we're not sure if he can reverse that trend yet. We haven't seen it yet, and I'd be very cognizant of that and worried about that before giving him $300 million, personally. So to me, that's a big factor. Hi. What you doing? He's banging the table in there too?
Yeah, he's hiding from me.
Oh, you're running from mommy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just worry about that. I understand the emotional part of it too. I've been on teams where it's like you have a guy who's been there the whole time. He's one of the stars. The stars are all really close. It's a great, great vibe. It's exciting. It's what you would want. But at the same time, then you see some of these red flags that are just impossible to ignore. And that's probably why he's not signed yet, because people are definitely going to want to negotiate And he has his sights set very high, being a 27-year-old free agent who just hit 311, which he should. But this is going to be a grind to get to the final number. What's up? Yeah. You want me to hold that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, what else we got? So again, like with the numbers here, like what I threw out there for Belly, like or whatever, and you throw out the numbers. I'm not good with with contract numbers. I find that again, if you try to be rational, you're not going to get them. So somebody's going to have to be not rational to sign him because you're seeing all the facts that I just laid out there, and they're a little scary. And so somebody's going to have to go out of their comfort zone to sign him. But I don't think it would be me. I don't think it would be me unless I had the perfect fit, like a team that I felt like was one bat away, contact bat away from winning the World Series. He wouldn't necessarily be the guy that I would stretch for right here. I could see it from the Phillies angle. The Phillies have had the same core for a few years. They've done well. They've hit a few roadblocks. They could use a contact hitter in the middle of that, lefty dominated top of the order. With Harper and Schwarber. Obviously, they have Trey and others, but he would fit in well there. But from the Blue Jays' perspective, I just don't know that he's a huge upgrade over Ernie. I know he's a better player than Ernie, but I'm not sure how much. So it's tough. It's tough for sure. Bo is in his 20s, but his legs are in their 60s. Yeah. Do I think extremely small and extremely tall players will benefit the most from the ABS? I think if somebody's just really good at knowing the strike zone and challenging, those are the people that will benefit the most. I do think the height thing, I don't know. Judge has been getting screwed for years on pitches below the legs, so I'm not really sure. How that will play out. We're just going to have to watch it. I'm very curious about the ABS. Very, very curious. I know this is random, but who do you think is slower, Kirk or Mark Vientos? Well, we can look up what the sprint speed says. Vientos is slow. He's running in mud. So let's do something funny here. Running sprint speed. We go to the bottom because I know both of these boys are going to be towards the bottom, right? All right, so we're looking for our first Met or Blue Jay. So Kirk is currently slower. He's at 24.3 feet per second. Pete Alonso, Ronnie Mauricio, Juan Soto, Jesse Winker. Mark Vientos is at 26. So Vientos is still faster. And look, I didn't watch much of Kirk. I'm fairly sure he's very slow. But Vientos is also very slow. So Kirk takes the title on that. So we got the answer on that. Kirk is slower. I never really doubted that because Kirk plays catcher and he's got a little bit of a different body type. But Mark's slow considering he looks so athletic. Very slow. Yeah, I don't know if it'll happen, but that's where I would have kicked those tires a lot harder than I think the Red Sox did on Marte. I think he would be a great fit, but obviously the price will be big. You just have to be willing to do it sometimes. What's up with the Red Sox and Yankees being so quiet? I don't think that will continue. I think they will make moves. And the Red Sox have done some stuff. The Yankees have been astonishingly quiet. A team that always dominates the offseason has done almost nothing. So I expect the Yankees to make a splash at some point. And if it really isn't Bellinger, where they're going to pivot is also going to be fascinating. Bo Bichette, one nagging injury away from being Whit Merrifield without the speed. I don't disagree with this. And that's why it wouldn't be me to give him $300 million. I'd love him, but only at my price and for the right circumstance. Ernie had an incredible postseason, but his regular season stats against righties were troubling for me. I agree. They were. He stung first righties, and he was better in the postseason. And when we watched all the at-bats on the video I have up on my channel of Ernie Clement's postseason at-bats, it was fairly obvious to me that he got some lucky hits in those postseason. I just think he's a good defender. You put him down towards the bottom of the lineup, he's going to get on base. He's going to flip the lineup over. And I don't think he's as good as Bichette, but he doesn't have the same red flags either on defense. So probably putting it all together, it's not as much of a difference as you might think. And obviously the money would be a huge difference. Yeah. When Kirk gets his bowling ball belly in motion, his little legs start trucking, but he just can't. Yeah, I mean, I get it. He's such a good all-around player. It's okay for him to have no speed. I can live with that. I can live with that a little bit. All right, last thing to talk about is Kepler getting popped. So I tried to look it up the other day. It's an anabolic steroid he gets popped for. Obviously, I haven't seen a statement yet made by him, but whatever he did, it didn't really work. 691 OPS last year, 682 the year before. And the incentives line up for a cheater here because, when you start to feel like you might be on the way out, you might want to, add to your physicality a little bit and, prop yourself back up. So it would make sense. And I'm sure he'll deny it, but there's going to be very little coming back from this. I think this might be the nail in the old coffin for our German friend here, Max Kepler, who was a very good young player. And I don't know enough about, his season last year. I know he played a little better in the second half, and I don't know enough about him as a dude or anything. But the bottom line is getting popped here is going to really be tough. It's going to be hard to come back from that. And he's a free agent. I did see that he negotiated to be able to serve his suspension while unsigned or whatever, which is interesting. But we'll see if he resurfaces. Obviously, this year, that's going to really hurt him because he's not eligible for the postseason. And overall, it just sucks. It sucks when guys cheat the game, cheat the other guys, and it just means that the system's working, that some people got caught. I never mind peeing in a cup if it meant keeping the playing field a little more level. So, kind of is what it is. I don't have a huge opinion on it. I just think this guy's not in a great spot. Not a great enough player to have his spot waiting for him when he comes back. Also has no signing teaming him playing the postseason, and he's been declining for a while. So it just kind of stinks. He was a really good player when he was younger. And now his future is extremely uncertain. My hottest of hot takes is that guys should be allowed to use a round of steroids after certain major surgeries, maybe like growth hormone or something that will aid you in healing. But I don't know. It's tough. I had to heal Tommy John without any of this, and I didn't get the benefit of anything like that. So fine by me to keep it the same way. And I don't really love any exemptions for steroids or hormone treatments or things like that. But I guess, I'd be open to the conversation. I'd be open to hearing what people had to say. I did see that McCutcheon had tweeted about this. They said he had 5 kids and dogs and church, and then he still had to pee, and then he couldn't pee, and he had to go outside to take his shirt off to get cold to try to force his pee out. I've been a part of many of these, and I know players complain about getting drug tested, but ultimately you want as many tests as possible because you want people to not cheat. And if people don't feel the tester's presence constantly, even in the off season, then they're more likely to cheat. And then the playing field's not level. And that's what sucks the most about all of this stuff. It's just like doing all that right. Hold on, I got a phone call. Hello? Hey, how are you? Okay, we don't need the English muffins. We'll just take a different color bell pepper then. Whatever. Yeah. All right, great. Thank you. All right, bye. Sorry, that was my fruit and vegetable order for the week because I gotta make my famous salad today for the wife. So I had to make sure we had that. Yeah, so I know a lot of people complain about doing all these tests, and I often had some weird ones too, where they would show up at 7 in the morning to my apartment. I lived in the city, and I'd taken my test in my daughter's bathroom, with all Dora the Explorer stuff all around. But I think ultimately more testing is good from the player's perspective because it creates an environment where there should be less cheating, and we want a level playing field, right? All right, I'm about to wrap this thing up. I don't really have much to add about Kepler. Yoan Moncada, let's do a 2-second look at Yoan Moncada. This was a former Red Sox and huge prospect, and he's been kicking it around for a while now. He was with the Angels last year, 289 plate appearances only, so he hasn't been fully healthy really the last few years. Right around league average to a little bit higher OPS. overall, and he's a fairly versatile defender. Although, God, he was awful. He was right in the Bo Bichette category, first percentile, outs about average. But if you look under the hood here a little bit, there are some things to like. He didn't chase a ton. He drew walks. He hit some barrels. I think the bat's a little closer to league average than what you would expect, maybe even a little bit above. The defensive part of it kind of sucks. And admittedly, I haven't watched enough of Yohan play the last few years to have a great opinion, but since 2021, he hasn't been an elite player. So maybe you get him as a super backup plan, but he wouldn't be anybody's plan A or plan B, I would say, at this point. There's obviously some talent still there under the hood, but maybe some Angels fans can give us a little more of an insight on whether Moncada was actually decent the last year or so or not, because I don't really know. The more you test, the less people accuse you. The accountability certainly is super important. I think it's important just in general. Like, we talked about this in some of the latter union meetings I was ever in, some of the bigger ones. There was always a contingent of players complaining about so much testing, that the testers are always at the clubhouse. And like, I was more on the side of like, good, like this is a deterrent. We don't want people to think they can get away with it. And that's what really, you could talk penalties all you want. What really deters people is the belief that they're not going to get away with it. And if the testers are always there and you feel that you could be tested any day, at any time, back-to-back days, random, that you can't control it, that's when you're going to be a little less likely to cheat and to roll the dice. So I was always in favor of that. Big time. All right, last question here, and then I'm wrapping it up. Which sport do you think produces the most athletic performers? If those players are dropped in any other sport, they'd perform the best across the board. So when you add in like hand-eye coordination to the mix, there's 3 sports that jump to the top, and it's baseball, hockey, and tennis. Those are probably the most well-rounded when you have to include the strategy piece, the hand-eye coordination piece, the creativity piece. I mean, there's no doubt that just from a pure speed and power and strength standpoint, football blows the doors off of everybody, and basketball to some extent. I mean, they're so springy, they're tall, they can do things that other people can't do, but there's no way they could hit baseballs. There's no way they could play positions. Like, you drop baseball players or hockey players into other sports, and they're going to be a little more competent all around, and they might not be the most high end because they can't compete maybe with that physical part of it, and like not everybody can. But you drop them in, and they'll be competent. Like, you put Trevor Story, for example, into an NBA game. Would he be good? No. Would he survive? Probably a lot better than if you dropped Giannis into a baseball game. Right? There would be a much different level. So from that perspective, I've always been on the side of the argument of baseball, hockey, and tennis, because those are very all-around places. Cricket, too, if you're into cricket, that's another similar one that, combines a lot of these qualities, into one type of athlete. But yeah, it's a tough question because track and field athletes, gymnasts, football players, basketball players, they obviously all have a certain level of, springiness and explosiveness in their DNA that, frankly, only some baseball players have. But that, to me, is a beautiful thing about our game, baseball, is that you can be in any shape and size and still be great. And the skill part is such a big deal. So if you add in the skill part and the hand-eye coordination part into this question, I stand by what I said. If you don't, then it's probably more on the track side, football side, stuff like that. Soccer is another one, too, that just got mentioned in the chat. But, soccer doesn't do any throwing. So outside of maybe the goalie, and they have their throws, their 2-hand throws. But I would say soccer is interesting too from a footwork perspective, but those guys are also smaller guys. So really every sport sort of naturally selects for itself. But I do think baseball, tennis, and hockey tend to create the most well-rounded group, in my opinion. All right, that's it. Yeah, I'm getting off right now. All right, I'm getting off right now. All right, that's it for the show. I'll be back on Wednesday. Michael King will be the guest on Wednesday, right off the beginning of the stream. So be ready for that. And that's about it. We are going to wrap it up. Thanks for hanging with me today on the stream, and I will be back on Wednesday with a guest, and hopefully some more stuff happens before that. So thanks so much. Had a great time with you guys today. And enjoy Monday. Enjoy back to work, back to school, back to reality. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Adios.